The first step is to punch out the protective panels in the top windows of the sides. So they have a little nub to keep them in place, but you punch them out easily. And be careful not to break these sides. They're pretty thin, especially on the S scale model. Right, and then I just have to clean off the nubs. Take most of it off with a knife. And then sand it. You gotta be careful not to remove any more material than you have to. I get these emery boards at the drugstore. They're for nails, obviously. They have one side that's a little smoother and one side that's a little coarse. Okay, so that was step 2. Now step 3 is to remove the floor supports from the carrier sheet. That's sheet A in our kit. I always find that a razor blade works a little better for this than the modeling knife. If the part doesn't come out easily, sometimes you just have to run a blade along to cut the backing paper, but most of the time they will just come out. Okay, I like to take the rest of the nub off, just file it off, it comes off pretty quickly. Okay, now we're going to apply these to the back of the walls. So the walls have little square holes. They're drilled all the way through so you can find where it goes. And generally, to remove the backing paper, you can see the green markings where the 3M product printed, so you can kind of tell. Sometimes if the wood is the same color, it's a little difficult to tell, but you just look for the green parts. Then we're going to try and put the knife between the paper and the part and peel it off. Instructions say to place this so that it covers the tops of the holes. We're going to line it up as best we can. And you can put these sort of gently in place and still be able to take them off and move them, but you're going to press it on and then it's going to become permanent. So we're going to do that for all 4 walls. On the back wall, which has this porch cut out, it's actually best to still center this and let it cover part of the opening there. Okay, that was step 3 done. Check it off. Okay, now we're going to start gluing the walls together. So I'm not going to be using a squaring jig. What I'm going to do instead is there's a square included with the kit. I'm just going to tape that to my cutting pad here. And then I'm going to open my brand new bottle of medium viscosity cyanoacrylate. I always buy a new bottle and new knife blade. Anytime I start a model, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. You don't want to have it fall apart because your cyanoacrylate is too old and got water in it. So I use a specimen tray, just put any kind of little small container work, and I just put a couple drops of the cyanoacrylate in the tray. Never ever apply it straight to the model. So I'm going to take a wall, figure out which side wall meets with it. You see that the tabs keep you from putting the wrong walls together. They only go together one way. So I'm going to take these two walls, press them against the square, then I'm going to use the floor to press them into the square, and they'll stay vertical enough. I'm going to take my micro brush here and just apply cyanoacrylate to the joint from the inside. I'm just doing the floor now. I'm going to make sure everybody's really in there. And just pressing in with this hand to press it in to hold the joint. So I'm going to hold that for a few seconds. Then I'm going to press the walls together with my other hand. Run some glue down this seam. First time I did this, I wasn't sure it would end up actually holding, but it holds very well. And just press those parts together. This top corner is kind of a special case because it's very easy to have it misaligned. So you just make sure it's aligned properly. Glue from the inside. You're not going to glue your finger here. And I'm going to glue from the outside also. You need a really strong joint right there. Just hold that for 15 seconds. Now, particularly on the last wall that you put in, it may not hit the floor, but that's not really a problem. It's because of the kerf from the laser, but you're just going to do the same thing. We're going to get one corner at a time, not both corners. So we can already see the basic structure. Happens fast. Steps 4 and 5. Done. Next comes, I'm going to take this off. I will probably need it again later, but for now it's just in the way. We are going to need the lath caps. Here you have to kind of watch your part numbers and make sure you're getting the right part on the right wall. Okay, we're going to start with the side walls. That's this part A2. Okay, that didn't cut the paper on the back here. Make sure we're cutting through the adhesive back here. I'm going to sand off the nubs. I just feel for them with my thumb. Okay, so we're going on the side walls. This goes along the edge of the windows. So just make sure it matches up very well. It should go exactly to the corners. And again, you can put this in place and still be able to lift it up and move it if you have to. But you want to get this alignment perfect. Okay, and then when you're satisfied, you're going to press it into place. Okay, do the other side. Some of these parts that are flexible, it helps to start from one end, get it in place, go ahead and press it in place, and then get the other end lined up. Okay, that was step 6. Step 7, we're going to do the front lath cap. Okay, this piece overlaps the side lath pieces. So you want to make sure that you line it up so it goes past the edge of the wall and covers up the end of the side lath piece, both sides. Press that into place. Okay, that was step 7. Okay, on the back side, it's made of 2 separate pieces because of the doorway. Alright, now this is the first time I think you have to really follow the instructions carefully. So the piece goes from the scribed line parallel to the door. So that's this line here over to the edge and overlaps the side piece. It's more important here to be exact on the overlapping part. So I'm going to do that first. And then you're going to kind of use the scribed board. Make sure your piece is parallel to that. And then press this into place. And it just reaches the scribed line there. Right? Now this shorter piece, the one that goes to the left of the door, this is very small. I'm working on the O scale model. This piece is very small on the S scale model. You just have to be careful with it. But here I think it's helpful to use a straight edge and just tape it to the model. So we're lining up along the top of this piece and at the top edge of the side lath piece. So this piece is very small, but very important. I'm going to put it so it overlaps the side piece and makes it to, or close to, the scribed line. And then use the straight edge to get it exactly where you want it. And press it into place. Alright, that was step 8. Okay, now step 9 is for the corbel pieces. It's very similar, but these are going to fit within the scribed lines on the model. Alright, looks like I finished step 9. This piece, these two pieces are so small that I like to put a little bit of super glue in. Maybe overkill, but just a little bit to help it kind of stay in place. Alright, so I think I've finished sheet A. Alright, we're going to start with the side lath trim. And these pieces are fragile. The engraving goes almost through the piece. So you just have to be a little careful when you're handling. The piece on the prototype is curved. It's not a flat piece. So we need to curve our model piece into place. And the way that we do that is we're going to use Aleene's tacky glue for this part. We're going to push this piece up against the top part, and then we're going to clamp it near the top, and that will push it into the curved shape that the prototype has. So Aleene's glue, wonderful stuff. I'm going to put it, I never put it on the model. I almost broke a rule there. You just squirt some onto anything. I use these plastic lids from somewhere. And then we're going to use this glue applicator. Okay, so I just put the piece in place. Try and get rid of the glue, the excess glue here. And then I'm going to use these little mini clamps. So I'm just going to put them over the edge here, but near the top. You can actually do this with just 2 of the clips, but I'm going to be patient. I'm going to put all 4 clips on this one side. The next step advises you to use a rubber band to hold these pieces in place, but I'm going to show you a different way that works as well. Instead of putting it on the building, which I said before, I think it's better to put it on the piece. We're going to put the glue on the lath piece. It's just easier to get a complete coverage. And I just wipe it off the top edge here so it doesn't ooze. Alright, so now this works on the easier front also. But I'm going to put it in place, and I can't clamp the back wall because there's no window. So I'm going to make sure that this lines up. And then I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on this joint in the corner, and that helps to get the curve right, the coved piece in there. So I'm going to hold this just for a while, but I'm also going to use a wire to put some super glue on where the lath meets the top cap. And where it meets the bottom corbel piece. So this is just using super glue, ACC, where I can't get the clothespins. And this doesn't really show after you paint it. Most of it soaks into the wood anyway, but I'm just going to hold this for about 5 minutes. A little bit boring, but it works really well. And the super glue will make sure that that coved part stays aligned and curved with this other part. And then we'll do the same thing with this very fragile piece that goes on the left. So again, there are 2 of them in the kit in case you break one. But there's not much place to glue this. But Aleene's will work wonders for us. This is probably the most difficult piece to add in the whole model. And then again, a little super glue on this joint. You're not glue your finger in there. Will help it to cove correctly. Okay, so I'm just going to hold both of these. After they dry or harden, cure, I'm going to come back with some Durham's water putty, and there will always be some gaps that need to be filled in. So I'm going to put the water putty on, and then I'm actually going to carve it a little bit to try to extend these boards and the space in between out to the other coved piece. So I'm going to do the best I can with putty to extend this piece out.